Well, good morning. Do excuse my... I've normally got a t-shirt on, so excuse my bare arms. It's quite warm, so I've got my underwear on, don't worry, but I have taken my shirt off because it is quite warm. What I wanted to show you is that it's another raining morning. It's supposed to clear up in the next hour or two, although it said that yesterday, but it is supposed to clear up. But I just wanted to show you that we've got the door open and the rain currently, isn't getting into me. And this is why, I like it when the front of the shelter, as it were, is over grass. Now, a lot of people like their footprints and everything, and obviously if you had a footprint down, then some of that area over there particularly would be starting to get wet. Probably even, I can feel, that's about where I can feel rain there, which makes sense given that's where the thing is there. Can't really feel much, if anything, here. A little. To be fair, it's misty rain, so I can feel a little bit there. If it started swirling much more, so that's wet there, and that was placed there. That tent peg is damp, so, and you can see there that that part of the bag is dry, that part of the bag is wet. So if you had a footprint down, then obviously your footprint over there, this is another reason why I think footprints encourage people to shut doors. And if you shut the door, you're going to get condensation just from the atmosphere, not so much from the ground up. Whereas if you don't have a footprint and you're able to leave the door open as much as possible, you can see how wet it is. It's been like that all night. Well, certainly, a large part of the night. And I'm not saying it's dry. It's not dry, but it's certainly not enough, because when you get like a lot of condensation, you get drips running down. Well, clearly the only drips, apart from the only drip being me in here, all the drips are outside. Shifted over onto my, I'm wondering whether she's a little bit more fussy than Lassie. Lassie just, she's out there, and the door's open. She could quite easily, clearly she could come in at any time, but if she chooses to, it's her choice. She could come in if she wanted to. It's not as if I've got the door up or anything. But yeah, I just wanted to show you. So like I said, this is a real advantage of keeping the door open, as much as possible. Although, to be fair, I had the door closed yesterday, as you saw in my video yesterday or the day before or whenever, and there was little to no condensation in here then either. But we tend to have plenty of ventilation, around the edges. It's not pitched. It's pitched low. It's pitched lower. Believe it or not, it is pitched lower than I would normally pitch. The back is there's a small bump there, and then you hear people saying that you can't pitch these things on bumps. Well, there's a small bump there, and then there's a small bump over there. So obviously that side there is higher off the ground because of a bump, you know, there. Admittedly, they're not very big bumps, to be fair, but yeah, so I just wanted to show you missed an open door, no footprint. Tony and his footprints, or lack of. I just really just do not ever see the point of a footprint. Better to let the grass do grass stuff than try to cover it up. I'll bet that people who use footprints get more condensation than people that don't use footprints. I thought I'd put my shirt back on again. As a bit too much showing the old bod off, not much to show off. Yeah, I just thought I would I'll show you how I do breakfast. It's really simple. We've probably done it before, but to be fair, I probably haven't done it for a while. So I'll show you how I do breakfast. So I use these Quaker Oat simple packet things like that. So that's my breakfast. I have two, and I use a regular pot to pick the tea bag. So I just use a regular pot, and I do it and I do it in the pot. You kind of got to guess, you know, a little bit how much water to put in. I probably put in about 350, maybe 400 milliliters of water. It really doesn't matter. I've probably put in a little bit more than I normally would, but that's fine. And it's really simple. I don't cook my porridge. Basically, we get the boiler we get the water on, and we try and line it up there. Now, usually when I'm doing drinks, I don't normally worry too much about bringing it to a boil. I might just get it so it's hot enough to drink tea. I think for porridge, it's worth getting it to a boil. I think Chris will put this in, and then he will keep the water simmering, and, you know, to like cook it. But I just don't think it's necessary, and you're more likely to get your pot a little bit mucky and dirty, because I have seen him having to, you know, clean his pot out a bit. I don't bother with that. I literally just boil the water, and I'm only turning it up now because the gas is starting to go down, you know, a little bit. We have used, you know, a fair amount. But we will get it to a boil, and that's boiling. And this combination is very quick. Doesn't normally stick so badly. So be careful when you're taking your cap off. So I put one in. Yeah, I've put a bit too much water in here, but never mind, it doesn't matter. So mine will be quite a little bit wishy-washy. But to be fair, in a way, the more wishy-washy that it is, and the more soupy that it is, you know, in a way, the better. Because basically, it will then, it'll be easier to clean. And then I'll just leave that for maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, something like that. I've put the lid on it, and then, like I said, I'll leave it for about 5 minutes, and then I'll just eat it like that, and I don't bother adding any more fire to it or anything. It will do its stuff for me anyway. Other people, I think Chris likes his done, you know, a little bit more. But like I said, if you put more water with it, you know, or you know, a good amount of water, and then you don't overcook it. As I said, I just add it to the boiled water, leave it for 5, and then it's much easier to clean. And I tend to, as you probably know, tend to make my tea in there, and then basically I just swirl the tea bag around, and that's your pot clean. It's really efficient. So anyway, we'll leave that, and then we will reconvene in a minute. And then I'll start. Oh, also what I'll do is I'll start putting. I tend to be one that doesn't put my rubbish away immediately. So I think while it's doing that, I'll start putting rubbish away. And you notice that it's July down on Dartmoor, and there's no breeze, and we're by the water, and there's little to no bugs. I got one bite on the side there, and I put some hydrocortisone on there, and a bit there, because there was a bite that side, and I put just a tiny bit of hydrocortisone there, and on that one, and they haven't itched since. I felt something on one finger last night, and I just ignored it. And you know, like I said, this is the middle of July on Dartmoor, in a valley, no breeze, by water, and I don't have an inner. You know, there's very few bugs down here. We're very lucky down here. I think the further north you go, like I said, up in Scotland, you'd have to have an inner. You'd have midges, would just be everywhere. It would be a nightmare. But we really are lucky. We're really lucky, you know, down here, that we just don't really get that much of a problem. And people shut themselves in inners and everything. It's just not needed. A lot of the time, it's just not needed. Alright, I'm going to put my bit of rubbish away. Another 4. To be fair, I'll probably give it 10 minutes, just like that, because it's quite mild, so it will take 10 minutes to cool off anyway. So, like I say, we will reconvene soon. Okay, let's try this. So it's a good 10 minutes. So it's like wallpaper paste. So, you know, admittedly, I've probably put too much water with it. But it's quite hot. And it's perfectly dribbling. It's perfectly edible. As I say, if I had a little less water, it would be a bit thicker, but you know, it's fine. And it is quite hot. So I'm going to eat that. And then I'll show you the tea bag trick. And when you've eaten, and you got, I'm sure I'm allergic to porridge, because every time I have porridge, I sneeze, and my nose goes all, go back, goes all funny. Oh. Anyway, so basically then, I put water in, I get a tea bag, pop that in, fire her up. Line it up as best as you can. Like that. Just like that. And then with your spoon, find the tea bag and just carefully, obviously this pot is held in place, so I can kind of do it just about without having to hold the handle, but obviously hold the handle if necessary. And basically you just, and I do this with everything, after I've had my dinner in my pot, after I've had, you know, soup, anything, it doesn't really matter. Obviously this one, with porridge, your tea tastes, generally speaking, like tea. When you do it after, you know, you've eaten, then your first cup of tea might taste a little bit of your dinner, but you're out camping. We're not, you know, we're not in Gordon Ramsay's bistro, so, you know, it really doesn't matter. And that way you don't need, you know, that's how I've managed to never need to use a cloth. The milk's going down. We just about, given that we've used all the power and everything, we've just about timed the milk okay. We've got in plenty of tea bags, because I make the tea bags last at least a couple because I make the tea bags last at least a couple of cups. And then, yeah, there's a few bits of porridge in your tea, but really not that much. Not so much that it's a problem. And then you've got a clean, mostly clean pot. And I'll have at least one more tea with that tea bag, because it's 9:30 now, so it will slowly start to pack up. But you know, it is that is now a clean, a mostly clean. It's not perfect, but it's, you know, it's clean enough for what I need. We're slowly starting to pack up. The mist has cleared. I've put the solar panel at the back here, so my sleep mat is back there first, then I've put the solar panel back there, so all that's at the back, and then I put one of these Nylon form bags in here, and I've put a couple of bits in there my night, which I didn't, it was so warm I didn't even need my very light leggings. I didn't need my beanie hat, which is probably back here somewhere. So I'll get the sleeping bag in, and then we'll find what else, you know, that we can pack in there. I think what I'll probably do is I'll pack everything up. And I was going to put, I brought the inner with me, and I was going to put the inner in to show you here, but to be honest, I can't really be bothered at the moment. I'm kind of sort of thinking, well, let's slowly pack up and head back. And then what I'll try and do, I'll either, I'm coming back in 2 weeks, so I'll either bring this same setup and then I'll bring the inner with me, or I will or I will bring, or I'll pop to the local park. Can you see me there? Yeah. Or I'll pop to the local park and do a pour mess. Hello, Paul. And do a pour mess now and pitch my tent in the local field. I even brought my, I think quite a few people, or some people have got these, an MLD t-shirt. I brought that, but I didn't, I used it for wrapping around Lizzie. It's not supposed to rain. That's my beanie and my towel, which obviously I didn't use any of that stuff. I'll keep the kilt, and I'll keep my waterproof coat out, but I don't think I'll be needing them. But yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll either go up the local park and pitch the inner in the park, or I will bring it on the next, trip. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see. It kind of depends what I bring, but I might be tempted to bring this again, because I kind of see, to my mind, I kind of see the Duomid as a summer shelter, and then the XLs, the XL Duomid XL, and the Trail Star more. I kind of see them more as winter shelters, because the Trail Star is just, you know, is really good for winter, because obviously for wind and such like, and then the Duomid XL is nice in the winter, because you've obviously got a bit more room, you know, behind you, which is nice to have. You know, it's nice to have that in the winter. The porch is the same, but you know, but yeah, you've got more sleeping space. So that's that. I'm definitely going to have another cup of tea, and I've got one energy bar, so I'll have that before we go. So that little thing in there, I've taken my vitamins and glucosamine. We didn't need sun cream, so that can go in there. That's my nose drops, that can go in there. It's a bit more rubbish, so that can go there. That's my phones. I left that cable out in case I got a little bit of power in that thing, but with all the mist, it was still flashing on 0% after 2 hours in the mist, which is not really a surprise. And if I was staying all day, then I'd leave it out, and hopefully we'd get some power during the day. But when it's not very nice weather, it really is more, it seems just like it'll just add a little bit rather than, you know, rather than a lot, which is to be expected. I mean, that's certainly my findings. You know, when I used that 21 watt panel with Chris last year, I carried 2 of these 26,500 milliamp power banks in Scotland, plus that 21 watt panel for, although obviously we cut the walk short in the end, but I carried it for 7 days, and I think we finished the walk on about the 5th day due to the weather. And it would have been, I would have got to the point is that basically the solar was adding like 1 for every 2, just a number 2, for every 2 that I was losing, maybe even for every 3 that I was losing, I was gaining 1. So I did find after about the 3rd or 4th day, I'd gone through the one power bank. Now normally one power bank would maybe do like 2 days, and I think it just got me to the 4th day. So, you know, you could argue that for every 4 I lost, I gained 1, or maybe 2, whatever. Anyway, you know, it added a little, but it was an accumulative decline, as it were, as it went through. And that was October, so we'll put that in there. So, you know, it does add, but you really do need to have a lot of sun. And again, bearing in mind I had 2 phones, plus I don't know, I think I had the DJI, so I probably wouldn't have needed power, so much power for that, maybe a bit. But I do get through more power than most. I mean, if people get into camp and they're talking and just not really using their phone, then, you know, you will probably find that a power bank will last a long time. For me, I probably should have put my food I probably should have kept it out of the drizzle, but still, it's in that waterproof thing, so that's dry. I might need the battery to change for that, so I'll leave that out. My torch can go in, toilet paper can go in, and really that's about all that I can put in. I brought the Mozzie thing, coil things to burn if necessary. Didn't need them at all. So I'm going to eat that before I go. I'll have another tea. That's rubbish. That would be rubbish. That's for tea stuff. So we are slowly making progress. Spare cords and things. Don't need the grass. We can leave the grass behind. That can go in there. A bit more grass. So that can go in there. So we'll try and get as much of that in there as possible. It depends really, because obviously I've got, where did I put it? It's a shame we've had all that hot sun. It's a shame I didn't get to try that, because if we'd have had wall-to-wall sunshine, then one day would easily have put extra power in for my phones, and then the other day, you know, I could easily have had enough chances to try that. But we will, you know, it's life. We will try it again. Right, so like I said, I'm just going to have a tea, and then I'm going to do these, just get this last few bits in. As I say, I want to get going, but I'm not in an immediate rush. I'm not in such a rush that I can't have another tea and just slowly take my time just putting those bits in. Well, this is the end of the walk. We've been walking about half an hour, so it's probably another 10-15 minutes back to the car. You know, just over half an hour, so it's really not far. But yeah, we're going to get back to the car and we will do more, hopefully, in a couple of weeks. Thanks very much for watching, whatever it is that we have produced this trip. And yeah, see you again soon, everybody.